It's time for another episode of The Oil Stream with Dustin Nielson and Tom Gazzola, presented by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Oil Stream. It is Nielson and Gazzola with you. The Oil Stream brought to you by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. If you're watching on the live stream on Twitter, feel free to chime in. We'll get to some of your questions. We've got lots to discuss. And once again, DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, Uber Eats, drive-thru. Get that Popeye's chicken sandwich. 12 locations, 7 of them right in Edmonton, all of them locally owned and operated, in part by our buddy Kyle Furby, and some of his partners as well. So, Tommy Gazzola, I'm loving that Arizona Cardinals hat you're sporting today, buddy.
Thanks, man. The black on black look, I think, honestly, you could do with any team, any logo, and it's subtle and it looks good. So I picked this one up a couple of years ago in AZ, and thanks, man. Like, it's hard to see in some light, but I got this TV light here that kind of makes it pop a little bit. So that's a 39% confidence boost on this Wednesday afternoon. Thank you, Dustin. That's why you're my very good friend.
Isn't that what I'm closing in on in our vote in the teacher draft today? I think I'm closing in on 39%, starting to run away with this thing a bit. Yeah, I will say this, like, we didn't expect the Oilers to play last night, so we had like this 3-day buffer zone. We were going to do the draft. It was fun to do a draft again today, man. I had a lot of fun with that one. It
was good. I feel bad and a little bit of shame for picking Skinner, even though he had already been picked. And it just, I don't know why. Like, I keep track as we're going along, and I knock off all the names on my list when they're named. And obviously Skinner was at the top. And for whatever reason, when it was picked, I didn't knock Skinner off. And so I was like, hey, Skinner's still there. I'm going to take him. Whoops. And Awanek, being a buzzkill, decided to penalize me, but that's fine. I got the guy I wanted after in terms of teachers. So I'm pretty happy with my draft, and hopefully I can pull off a come-from-behind victory here. But I think it's just you and I in this race out of the 4 of us. So I think that's indicative of our drafting abilities.
We've got lots to get to in the Oilers. We're going to dive into last night, the McDavid find that came down today, maybe some top 6 changes against Calgary, possibly some blue line changes. A lot of people asking about Stalock after Koskinen last night and the game that he had. But Tommy, before we get there, it's March 31st, a.k.a. Charge 31st today, Chin Strap Awareness Month about to end. I have brought back my chin strap, Tommy, as a guy who is into fashion and facial hair. Not that you can grow any yourself. What do you think of the old chin strap today?
Oh, it's a nice throwback. You did an excellent job. Very well groomed, symmetrical. All of the boxes are ticked. So I think you and Eric did a tremendous job in chin strap, aka Charge Awareness, this month, and kudos to you guys. You should be commended for the work you put in, the awareness you raised, and to own it on the last day of Charge Awareness Month is just the perfect touch. It's the cherry on top. And yeah, I was actually thinking about that. I saw you guys' pictures today, and I looked in the mirror and I'm like, oh, my charge would look like someone took a speckling of sand and just dusted me with it. It's so bad. It's okay facial hair, but it's just blonde and it's crappy, man. I'm not the only one in my family who's blessed with terrible facial hair. I don't know, maybe it's a curse depending on how you look at it. One of my uncles is kind of the same way, just patchy and crappy and looks like sand or dirt was tossed on you. So you're right, I can't grow one of those magnificent charches.
You can't be a leader in a movement or a revolution without taking part in it yourself. So we had to go all in. And you know what? Depending on what the work situation is like next year, I might roll with this bad boy for all of Charge next year, from Charge 1st to Charge 31st. I came home today. My wife was like, I don't know. I'm starting to question her taste in me because she's like, it's good to see that chin strap again. I'm like, are you crazy? No, nobody says that. It's bizarre. It's all right.
You know what that
okay.
means? That's the ultimate test of love. Tammy just loves you, and you can do anything. You could grow a half beard and the other side completely shaven, and she'd be like, I love both sides. Yeah,
that's a good look if you go like this the whole time. I think that would be all right. All right, Tommy. You did post-game last night after a loss to the Montreal Canadiens. I know fans are fired up. A lot of it being directed maybe not towards the team that was garbage on the ice, but maybe some lineup decisions by Dave Tippett. So we'll get to that in a second. But as for the game itself, you're at the end of this weird 10-day trip. You're playing 3 and 4. Now, they have been good in back-to-backs, which is why I had some faith in them last night. But a horrible start to the hockey game. And I know some people texting in today and saying this Oilers team can't handle, the adversity that they face, which I don't agree with this year. I think this Oilers team has done a good job sticking to their game, grinding it out, coming back and winning hockey games, protecting the majority of the leads they had, but they just didn't have that last night.
Yeah, let's start this by just calling it what it is. They shit the bed. That's all it was last night. They had a bad game. There shouldn't have been any rust excuses, or there shouldn't have been any energy excuses. The rust was all on Montreal. Edmonton coming off an emotional high in Toronto. There were some texts that came in that suggested that Toronto wore them down and sucked all their energy out. I don't buy that for a second. I really don't. Yeah, they got outplayed generally against the Leafs, but they got that win. You should be able to ride that good vibe into Montreal. And maybe they got ahead of themselves a little bit. That's what I feel it might be. But let's call a spade again. They were bad, and good teams have bad games, and that happened.
What do you think of the decision to start the Caroline as opposed to putting the old nuclear line over the boards to start the game? Because that's usually typical go with one of those top 6 lines to start a game.
Yeah.
And it backfired last night, but what do you think of that decision overall?
Yeah, maybe Dave Tippett second guesses it. I honestly don't mind it. That's a line that has been playing well, had a good game the night before, should be able to go in, bang some bodies, get on the defense on the forecheck, and do a decent job. They're completely capable of having an effective first 35 seconds. There's nothing that says that they shouldn't be able to do that. And there were so many breakdowns on that first goal, bad back check. It was kind of listless going into the offensive zone. Koskinen kind of deep in his mid crease and
with a 5-hole about this big.
Oh man.
I didn't feel like he reacted to the shot. I feel like he just sort of made a move before the shot was made.
And Dusty, I mean, you could go down the list. Like, all of it was bad. Everybody, all 6 guys on the ice on that play were bad. And Dave Tippett called it an uncontested layup. And that's completely fair. It's a perfect way to summarize it. And I know we'll get to Koskinen too, but listen, I know it was a point blank chance for Kotkaniemi, but it's not like he picked the corner. It's not like he made a great shot. He just fired it on net, and a guy who's 6'7" gave him an opening, and it wasn't a great goal. And I made this joke on Twitter, and I made it to a few friends, but it's true. The posts had more saves than Koskinen at one point early in the game. And he was not good the rest of the way. The team in front of him wasn't good the rest of the way. No one was good last night. So, I mean, you people can pinpoint certain areas of the game last night, and they're not wrong. They'll be like, well, the defense was bad. Yes. Well, the forwards were bad. Yep. Well, the goaltending was bad. Yes. All of it was bad. Well, the decision-making by the coaching staff was bad. Yes. All of it was bad across the board. Stinker game. And, we'll see where it goes from here.
One of the things I want to get to a little bit, and yesterday, that game, to me, you don't freak out about it. You don't read into it too much. You're due for a game like that. Most of their losses this year, we've actually come in and said, hey, you know what? Pretty good effort. Could have had something a little bit better here or there, taking advantage of an opportunity here. We haven't had many where you come in and say they were just awful last night. But I saw this tweet last night about McDavid and Draisaitl, and I find it interesting, Tommy, with Montreal here, and we know they'll play Montreal at the end of the year. They're back in Montreal on Monday before a couple in Ottawa. So far this year, against the teams in the division, McDavid and Draisaitl have combined for 33 points in 7 games against Ottawa, 22 points in 6 games against Calgary, 21 points in 9 games against Toronto, including that stretch where they did nothing for 3, 20 points in 6 against Winnipeg, 18 points in 5 against Vancouver, and 3 points in 4 games against the Montreal Canadiens. Do you see anything special that Montreal's doing, or is it just the fact that they might have a more reliable blue line than some of the other teams? How it just seems that's so bizarre that they're the only one that's really been able to contain them.
And it doesn't really make sense either. It's not like Carey Price has been particularly great. He didn't even have to really try last night. Jake Allen, I know he's had a good bounce back year this year, playing behind Price or sometimes ahead of Price. this is one of those ones where it just feels like it's a team in Montreal that those two guys don't necessarily have their best effort. I don't know. Louis DeBrusk talked about a little bit in the broadcast yesterday where he said there's some buildings you go into or some teams, it gets in your mind where you don't have it against them, or you just don't have that same feel. It's a bizarre thing that happens in sports. It happens in hockey, obviously, and it seems to be Montreal is the team that for those guys, it doesn't necessarily work. And when the Oilers beat the Habs earlier in the season, it wasn't McDavid and Draisaitl leading the charge. It was a smattering of other players, and maybe that's what you need against them. And then from time to time, you do get contributions from the big dogs, but it's a weird anomaly that just sometimes happens in sports. That's how I look at it. I don't think that the Habs do anything in particular against those two that would say, well, geez, they're so effective against McDavid and Draisaitl.
Started with the big line together there last night, went away from it in the second period, and I was pretty fired up about it because he went with the exact line combinations that I was like, I got to see it with Kassian, McDavid, Puljujarvi, Draisaitl, Nuge, and Yamo. And just with the way nobody was going last night, I don't know if I get a good read into exactly what they had last night. So what do you think Tippett does with the top six? Like, he didn't have Kahun in the lineup last night, so he couldn't go back to that original top six. So that might be why we saw those combinations for the 40. I'd like to see Kassian, McDavid, Puljujarvi against the Flames and then run Nuge with Dry and Yamo, but we know Tippett has gone away from that as often as possible. So does he stick with those six guys against Calgary, or do you see him reverting back to what's been the norm this year, or how does he approach it?
I think the easy answer is they split up McDavid, Draisaitl now. I don't mind Kahun. Like, I haven't minded Kahun's game all season long. And he gets knocked on hard by a lot of the fans and some of the media too. And listen, he's not a premier player, but he's an effective second, third line guy. I like his tenaciousness. I like how he gets in there. He makes little plays. He goes to the net. He's not that effective in front of it, that's for sure. But at times he gets lucky and he converts. He has skill. He doesn't shy away from anything. So maybe they mix Kahun back in there. I thought Ennis at times has been pretty good in the top six when he's been on the second line. And, you know, if James Neal's healthy or feeling better, I don't mind him up there either. You've got a bunch of guys that not a single one of them is the ideal guy at this point. We got to be clear about that. But in spot duty or some kind of rotation, maybe you can make it work. We saw the RNH Yamamoto Draisaitl line combine again, and it seems like it only happens when the team's in a jam and it's garbage time. So again, they weren't very effective. I wouldn't mind seeing them. And yeah, you could throw Kassian with Puljujarvi and McDavid, see how that goes for a full game, give them a fresh look. I wouldn't even mind seeing like Kahun up there with Puljujarvi and McDavid to see how that goes. Again, I'll just reiterate. I don't mind Kahun as much as some people. Some people just rip right into him. And we saw it on the post-game show the other night against Toronto, where it's just like, like he has decent moments. He's not Tobias Rieder. He's much better than Tobias Rieder. And people like to dump on him. He's become a whipping boy.
Yeah, he's made some big blunders, some turnovers that have bad times, and I think people point to one or two of those facts. I think when he's out there with Draisaitl, he's okay. Like, he's not great, but I think he's okay when he's out there with Draisaitl. I'm not sure he serves a purpose anywhere without Draisaitl, which is kind of how it's been with the lineup. I mean, he's either in it with Draisaitl or he's out of it. That's kind of the role that he's taken on right now. All right, Tommy, let's get to the main event. Connor McDavid fined $5,000 for his hits, or whatever you want to call it, on Kotkaniemi last night, out of frustration, obviously. Your thoughts on what he did and the fact that the NHL decided that was worth $5,000 today?
Well, he took a stupid penalty out of frustration, anger. Things weren't going well, and it was a microcosm of the night. Was it dumb? Yes. Should he have done it? Obviously not. Was it suspendable? No. Was it finable? Well, the NHL certainly thinks so, but I think it's kind of a laughable situation. Kotkaniemi, speaking of laughing, was laughing about it on the bench, like you alluded to earlier today on the Nielson show. It was an elbow. It was a stupid play. He took the penalty. He got the penalty. went to the box, felt shame for 2 minutes, and came back out and had an ineffective game the rest of the night. He scored that goal that got waved off, and that was it. I think it's being made into something that it shouldn't be made into, probably because it's McDavid. I don't know. Like Eric Macramella said that should be a suspension. Someone else complained that the CBA, that's the maximum allowable fine. And for someone who makes $50,000 in a year, that's the equivalent of being fined like $17.58. Who cares? Like, he got fined, sure. You got a penalty, yeah, that's appropriate. The suspension thing, give your head a shake. That's ridiculous. It was a dumb play. He didn't blow the guy's head up. Just relax. Fa relax, as we say in Italian.
Fa relax. Like that?
Fa relax.
Fa relax. What's that mean? Just relax?
Just relax. It's fa and then relax. It's this hybrid Italian-English thing that Italo-Canadians like to throw out there.
I mean, to me, there's so many different things to discuss here. One is the reaction from everybody. I mean, you've got Habs fans, and then, you know, the Toronto fans, and any anti-Oilers, anti-McDavid crew go and say, if it's Tom Wilson, it's 10 games. And if it's Tom Wilson, it might have been because it's Tom Wilson. But then you've got the other side, and I was going back and forth. I'm in that very rare spot where I grew up a Habs fan, but I got an entire family here that cheers for the Oilers, and I want the Oilers to score goals so I can play goal songs on my show, and it'll be a fired-up show. But at the same time, I'm kind of smirking at Marshall last night, giving him the gears as the Habs are pumping a few past the Oilers here. So I was in a kind of a unique spot. And then I see, like, on the other side with the Oilers, we got people saying, this happens to McDavid every game and there's no call. And I'm like, this doesn't happen to McDavid every game. Is he hooked and held and interfered with in the neutral zone every single game? Yeah. Yes. All of those things. But is he getting popped like that every single game and it's going uncalled? No. So you've got these massive exaggerations from both sides, which is exactly what you get in an emotional situation like this. But the entire thing could have been avoided again if officials would just do their bloody job. It's that simple. McDavid's frustrated because Kotkaniemi gave him a little bit of a slash when he's coming through the neutral zone, comes in over the blue line, loses the puck, circles around, sees Kotkaniemi and pops him. If an official would have called the slash like he should have, McDavid wouldn't have been frustrated in the first place. Kotkaniemi wouldn't have been put in a bad spot, and Connor wouldn't have been fine. Like, it all comes back around to shitty officiating every single time. And the reason Connor McDavid has to get frustrated and go take a shot at Kotkaniemi is because for the last 3 games, he hasn't been able to skate through the neutral zone untouched, whether it be Austin Matthews or Engvall or Kotkaniemi or whoever. It's irresponsible from the National Hockey League to sit here and tag him with a $5,000 fine because their officials are garbage. I just don't get it.
Well, they're reffing scared now, too. It's incredibly obvious after the whole Tim Peel situation. If you thought they were jittery before, because they've had some stinkers over the last few years, look no further than the Golden Knights Sharks situation, where Pavelski went down, and that changed that Game 7. The hand pass that the Blues had on that one goal, like, you're right. The refs are in their own heads right now. They're scared. They're petrified. They're awful, and it's affected them even more. And it's, you know, I make a point of saying on the postgame show, we're not going after the refs tonight, but there's some nights where you're like, geez, they were goddamn terrible, and it's so blatantly obvious. And I know how hard it is. I understand all the refs out there saying, well, do you understand how hard it is to ref? And then you got these $1 million players making fun of you, blah, 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 say stuff to you. Yeah, I get it. But still, like, a good ref doesn't let them affect that type of outcome in their calls. But it's happening, and they are on high alert, even like to the nth degree. And it's so blatantly obvious. And now we're seeing the ramifications of that, and expect more of the same, Dusty Nielsen.
I know. It's 3 consecutive games that were finally enough. And McDavid turned around and was just like, F it, like, boom, done. Yeah. Like, and I can see why he would be so frustrated. Just call the bloody penalties. He wouldn't be frustrated. And it's not like they're tic-tac calls. Like, it's interference almost every single time. And you don't have to call all of them. But, I mean, mix in 1 or 2 here or there, and you're not going to have your star players getting so frustrated that they're doing stupid things. And it was a stupid penalty to take. Yeah. I mean, nobody's trying to debate that, but it just frustrates me. It all comes back around, and I try to pick my spots on officials. You're right, because if you do it all the time, it's going to mean less. But I just think this comes back around to frustrated because officials have been garbage for him the last 3 games, and he decided to take it into his own hands. That's on you, National Hockey League. And I mean, the play itself, I thought he hit his shoulder, then got him with either this area almost on the head. Kotkaniemi does give the head back, and then he's laughing on the bench. Get it together, National Hockey League. Get it together. All right, Tommy. I'm sure you see it on post-game because the Oilers will win, and you might see it on post-game. But Jones and Bouchard, do they draw back in at some point? People were treating it last night like they lost to the Habs because Jones or Bouchard wasn't in the lineup. And breaking news, that wasn't going to change anything last night. But, Tommy, do you see them at some point here?
Yeah, I'd actually like to see Bouchard back in, and I'm not one of those that is so adamant he needs to be playing for his development. The Noah Dobson correlation, I think, is a good one. Dobson played less than half the games last year. He seems to be doing just fine. I think it's good and beneficial for Bouchard that he is playing some NHL games, and he is in his first full National Hockey League season. I would like to see him play. Hopefully, maybe on Saturday against the Canucks, you could roll with probably, I'd like to see Jones get in for Chris Russell, who I didn't think played particularly great the second game in Toronto. Even the first game in Toronto, I thought he had some questionable decisions with the puck, especially in his own zone, some soft plays, soft passes, where I think that maybe you could get Caleb Jones in there. And then Bouchard, maybe on Saturday against the Canucks, if that game goes ahead. I know the Gaudette positive test came back positive once again, so we'll see what happens.
They were all on the ice today. It looks like it's going to be good to go.
Okay, so then we should be okay. And so I'd like to see both of them in this back-to-back set, but I'm not so hell-bent like some fans are that you have to and stress playing Bouchard. You still need to play Bear. Bear's still a little bit more ahead of Bouchard when it comes to development, and so here's a chance this weekend to get both of those defensemen in. Which games the Dave Tippett chooses to put them in, it's up to him. But as long as one game for each guy, I'd be happy with that.
If you're watching on the live stream right now, subscribe to the podcast. Just search the Oil Stream on all your podcasting platforms. Also, go to Popeyes, the presenting sponsor, and pick up your 4 collector jersey cups. We had D Cards tweet us. He's got these all placed into at least on a Photoshop in Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet. It looks good.
Yeah. Great job. Congrats, Dylan Cardinal.
He's very
I like how he kept going with it. Yeah, it was awesome.
Okay, last night wasn't on Koskinen, but he wasn't good. So people are waiting to see what happens with Stalock. I asked Jamie McLennan about it today. He said he would expect him to get a game here at some point, just so he has a little bit of game action in case somebody does go down, Tommy. Is it basically come to a situation... And I don't know about the back-to-backs this week. We'll see what happens there. But does he get one of Koskinen's scheduled starts? Is that essentially what happens here?
That would be the likeliest scenario. And I think that if Koskinen had a good game last night, and I know the team, again, didn't have a good game, Koskinen wasn't good. Let's not kid ourselves. He wasn't good. The first shot going in, again, this is a problem, Dusty. It's a problem. There's a sag on the bench when that happens. It zaps all your energy. The people who want to defend him for stuff like that, get out of here. That is absolutely ludicrous. And so if he had a decent outing last night, I thought that maybe that would have shut the door on Alex Stalock getting a real legitimate shot with this team. But I think that performance from the team, Koskinen in specific, all of a sudden gives a sliver of opportunity to Stalock now, and it would come at the expense of a Koskinen start, and that might just be exactly what Stalock needs to reestablish himself after what's been a tough time, losing the starter's job in Minnesota, which he was holding on to last year when Devin Dubnyk was out of action. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'll be perfectly honest, I think Alex Stalock has a higher ceiling in the National Hockey League than Mikko Koskinen. I really do.
I agree with you. You're not going to get an argument from me. I mean, it'll be tough. It'll be tough for him to steal away a backup job. But, if you come in and have a solid performance, pick up a win, then they would be crazy not to go back to you again, whenever Mike Smith needs another break. So,
Hey, how about this? Stop the first shot. If he can do that, that's already arrow up on Stalock over Koskinen.
And you know the whole Valen Camus movement, the revolution here for Koskinen. It wasn't that I was saying he was going to be the guy. It was that I was going to try to say nice things about him this year. I was going to we were all going to go easier on him this year. And I thought, it was executed well in the first, when he had that heavy workload beginning of the year, had some good games, had some bad games. It's a lot of work for him. But Tommy, I'll tell you, buddy, it's tough to avoid saying negative things about Koskinen right now. It is. And I know it's weird because I'll see some people people are all over Koskinen, but they're not all over Mike Smith when he lets in a goal like that. And I mean, the bottom line is this year, Mike Smith hasn't let in many goals like that. He's just been better. He's just been better.
And when he lets one in, you can call him out for it. Absolutely. He lets in stinkers. We'll call him out.
All right, that's going to do it for another edition of the Oil Stream, brought to you by Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. We'll be back on Friday. It'll be game day. I'll be in a T-shirt, and I'll have a suit jacket, and I'll probably still have this chin strap because I'm going to ride it out for a little bit, Tommy. I turned 40 in late April. Maybe I'm chin strap guy on my 40th, buddy. Why not? Why not?
Whatever Tammy wants and whatever your heart desires is all that matters at this point.
All right, buddy. Have a good couple of days. Solid episode here, and we'll talk to you on Friday, bud.
Sounds good. See you, Dusty.